Ladies and gentlemen, we talk about the strategy and leadership in disruption in the first session. This session is about overall how the disruption is going to impact the future. Now this is the difference. You know, the word future, its timelines is completely changing as we are moving from one year to another. You know, when we started our dreams, we talked about that, okay, we will be doing this in 50 years, we will be owning this house, owning this car, the world will be moving on this space, and we made our thought process based on that future. I will be honest enough, in the last 15 years since the advent of the smartphones, this future and its timelines have completely changed. What we think today that could have been possible in the next 20 years, that is possible in the next 2 years. And we don't know what is going to hit us in the next 20 years, and that's the reality. And that's something that we are going to talk about this panel. What is the future all about, and where overall the disruptive technologies will take us? So Asif, starting from you, what do you think are some notable examples of disruptive technologies or innovations that are very significantly impacted the IT industry?
First, I would like to start like what is disruption is all about. It's a strategic inflection point, right? So I think if one's saying that the competition that kills you looks like you. So basically you need to understand that you look at any example, what happened, like how disruption happens, that you redefine an existing industry problem, right? So there is an existing industry problem, you redefine and solve that problem like Uber did, Amazon did. There was an existing industry problem, they disrupted the industry and they redefine an existing problem. Or you can, brand new problem, then you can come up with a solution and solve the problem in an existing industry. Existing industry problem you can solve and disrupt that, right? So again, like Netflix did, like when Blockbuster was there, there's an industry existing problem, it solves it, it's a disruption, right? So as I said, that the competition that kills you won't looks like you. That's what it means, that you have to find your niche in disruption. Whichever industry you are, there are multiple people from various industries, various discipline. Find your niche when you're talking about disruption. When you find your niche, how would you do it? It's a customer centricity, it's customer engagement, and customer experience. When you think about these all three things about customer, you will definitely identify the problem in your ecosystem. You don't have to go further. When I said redefining in existing industry, it means in Pakistan. You look at the ecosystem, like a lot of fintechs got developed, a lot of mobile money wallet came in because there was an existing fiscal space, there was a problem. And somebody disrupted, somebody came up with an idea, innovated that, and when innovation happens, you need to think about scalability and sustainability for the disruption as well. It's not like you solve the problem, yeah, I solved the problem, but I can't scale it to the mega level, so it's not sustainable, then it will die down and it will never be. Disruption also needs to survive through cash flows and things like that, right? So these are the three basic building blocks, I would say, from the disruption. Now, Saquib, to your question, right? What in recent times, which technology has disrupted us? There are many. Like, I belong to services industry, right? We provide IT services so I will start with that. How our industry is disrupted, like during the COVID times, right? And with the Gen Z population, their mindset, it's a complete, pre-COVID, if someone doesn't come to office, we thought that he is on leave. Now, just one disruption happened, the mega one, we transformed as a human being immediately. We disrupted ourselves. We started working from home. We provided security. We provided the convenience. Now, Gen Z people, they are more social than like social connections they avoid, and they just better on Teams. They are performing very well to our customers and responding very well by working from home. This is also a disruption. Like, it's disrupted the entire thing, right? So the services industry globally. So I don't need the physical infrastructure to grow faster. So it gives us an amazing opportunity. So disruption provides an opportunity, right? And it provided an opportunity to service industry that we don't have to have 100% capacity, physical infrastructure to grow. So that's why we can grow at a faster pace, and that's why we are doing, and that's why the services industry is growing faster pace, because physical infrastructure is isolated from that. So now I'll just take most of you guys know about ChatGPT, generative AI. That's what it's the engine behind it. In simple terminology, what it is, before generative AI, before ChatGPT was known, we were having the limitation in AI where we were saying that if you don't have the historical data, if you don't have the historical data of your problem, your industry, or your domain, you will not be able to predict and prescribe through machine learning and AI. But now with this generative AI, it learns from the past, and then it creates the data based on the examples and the samples. It creates tons of data. And now once it creates the data, it is producing the brain that you can ask and you can get a response from the collection of the past and the collection of the generation data that generative AI produce. And then what it does, then it predicts and then it prescribes to you what you can do. That is the major difference between AI and machine learning. Machine learning gives you prediction, and AI gives you prescription, what you need to do based on productivity. So all the businesses, whatever businesses you are, doesn't matter. Even us for running the event and marketing and PR, he needs the data. Anyone needs the data to make an insightful decision. And with the disruption that is happening in data with generative AI, machine learning, and big data, it's immense. And this now, look how the disruptions are related to each other. This AI and generative AI cannot work without the cloud, because cloud, you need to store tons of data. Big data generates the tons of data. So where it would go? So cloud has disrupted years ago this infrastructure industry, where all of you, if you are not considering, you can consider, you must have considered, but if you have not yet, you have to rethink your infrastructure strategy on cloud, how it is going to be scalable. So it is a cost saving, it's scalability, agility, and all the things that security, all the things that you get, so you can make an agile decision based on this disruption that is happening, and you can leverage and utilize that disruption. So similarly, I think, I'm sure my colleagues Amir and Irfan must have talked about 5G. So IoT is now connecting both, we call it like physical world and the virtual world, like we call digital twins. So that is also disrupting that the machines are creating, and it is producing again the insightful data. And insightful data disruption only can happen if you have the cloud with you. So all these things are really interconnected. And I think for my humble suggestion for all the businesses, all the startups, all the young people, just look around you that what is happening in the industry. Is this a problem and opportunity? Don't give up and come up with a solution, which is just don't solve the problem, but think that if I'm solving the problem, is it scalable? Is it sustainable? Can it be monetized? Can we make money at the end of the day? It's not like just about saying that, okay, we will keep growing slowly and gradually, and you run after some idea and the solution, and then you can't disrupt at a mega scale. So there is a lot to talk about the disruption. I can keep going, but I know I have 5 minutes, and I guess I used most of it. So thank you, Abad. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And IT is in any ways is in the base of every industry and technology that we today talk about. So whatever changing that we are talking about, that IT industry is bringing in, it's part of every industry that you will interact about. Just moving on, Sami, to you, and clearly coming, and I will be asking question in this session on industry basis. We touched the IT industry. I will go to the FMCG touching. With all this that we are talking about today with e-commerce and we are talking about direct-to-consumer approach, how these approaches are disrupting the FMCG industry today, and what is the challenges for the old entrants and the new entrants that are coming in the market, how they can manage this disruption in future?
Thank you, Saquib, for this question. Definitely there are more tailwinds on digital commerce in the FMCG industry than the headwinds. So to slightly set the context first, by the end of 2022, about 20% of total retail sales were through digital commerce that amounted to about $5 trillion globally. FMCG was about 5 to 6% that amounted to $25 billion globally. In Pakistan, the contribution of digital commerce, so we don't have any reported numbers, but the rough and the closest estimate says that today the contribution is about 2 to 2.5%. Now, how does the future looks like? And I'll also talk about, at times the disruption could happen overnight, like what we saw in COVID, but at times disruption is also a process that is ongoing. It is boiling up until the time comes when it really surfaces, and I'll talk about that as well. Now, the projections in the next 7 to 8 years are that the contribution of digital commerce in FMCG industry would go up to 20% globally, and of course this would vary between the developed economies and the emerging economies like of Pakistan. For Pakistan, this contribution is expected to go up to about 10 to 12%. What does that 10 to 12% mean? The estimated size of FMCG industry in Pakistan would be about 2 trillion rupees by the end of 2030. And when I'm saying FMCG, I'm talking about healthcare, I'm talking about home care, personal care, food and beverages categories, which account for about 80 to 85% of the FMCGs. Now, what does that mean from a Pakistan perspective? It means that the size of digital commerce in FMCG industry is going to be about 200 billion rupees. That's opportunity which is up for the taking. And why this is something which is going to happen now? So at times, looking at the segmentation of population is very, very important. I remember this goes back in 2009 to 2010. I saw this graph. That graph said that by 2020, Pakistan is going to be a fat nation. So this was the headline, that by 2020, Pakistan is going to be a fat nation. Of course, it got my attention. When I looked into it, it had a graph which said that by 2020, the split of Pakistani population by age segmentation is going to be such that 15 to 30% of the people who fall under the age of 15 to 30 would constitute 50 to 55% of Pakistan's population. And this is the age where we as a person, we tend to eat more. And we saw that as well. In FMCG industries, companies, categories that are related to food industries in Pakistan from 2018 to 2022, the CAGR versus previous years was very high. The food commodities, we also saw the demand went up. We used to do surplus in food commodities. We ended up importing food items as well. So at times, some of the similar trends can guide you where the future is heading towards. Now, coming back to my point, and thank you, Asif, you spoke about Gen Z. So this generation point of Generation X, Generation Y, Generation Z, Generation Alpha, it holds a lot of meaning than these few words. If I look around in this room right now, so Generation X and Generation Y are the people, so Generation X are the people who have born in between 1965 to 1980, and Generation Y, millennials, they are the one who have born from in between 1980 to 1995. Gen Z, 95 to 2010, then Gen Alpha. If I look around, probably 80% people in this room, they belong to Gen X and Gen Y. Now, what is the difference? So people who are part of Gen Y, someone like me, so when I was a child, I used to ride on BMX, bicycles. Generation Z were doing scooties, and now Generation Z, Alpha, they do the fidget spinners. We saw the transition from VCRs to CDs. Gen Z saw it from CDs to DVDs, and then to Netflix. So what is the difference? So Generation Z was the first generation that were exposed to digital, and Generation Alpha are the one who are growing in this digitally enabled world. Now the difference is, and my point of pointing out that why it's probably 80% of the people sitting in this room, we belong to Generation X and Y. So the late tail of Generation Z and the early lot of Generation Alpha, now they are more digitally savvy, digitally enabled. They are currently aged in between 18 to 25. In the next 4 to 5 years, they will come in a position whereby from influencers, they will become the decision makers. And when they will become a decision makers, they look for convenience in digital versus, generation like of ours or generation prior to ours. So this digital commerce is set to boom. So this is going to happen. Nothing can stop it. So this disruption would definitely come. Now, how are we positioned today? If we look at it from our perspective, so clearly, if you ask me with my experience in FMCG, we are in a much better position on B2C. So B2C includes players like platforms like Foodpanda, Crave Mart, and we see that, with the passage of time, and recently they've started to invest on grocery platforms as well. So we are in a much better place. The only watch out for B2C players should be that they should be ready with the bandwidth. They should invest on the capabilities today, and today they should not overspend on the grocery part. So they have to make sustainable investments just to make sure that they survive another 2 to 3 years. The boom would come in the years to follow.
Yeah.
B2B, on B2B, I think clearly there's a need to change the mindset. And we saw a year and a half ago, B2B was a huge thing, and we saw that many went away also. The mindset shift has to be from the model of price cut to value creation. I'll not get deeper into it right now. And to you, another part of your question, Saquib, on D2C, I think basis our learnings as a global organization, because we operate around the globe with a turnover of about $38 to $40 billion per year. Our learning across the markets is that the countries where B2C is emerging, there's a space for it to be developed, focus on it. Don't invest too early on D2Cs, otherwise you may end up closing it down with some disappointments. Wait for it. When the B2C establishes, it takes its ground, then start investing on D2C.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the elaborated answer. The only comment that I will make is this definition of Gen Zs and Generation X and Y, that doesn't take into account the heart of the person. So I think sometimes we need to judge the people on that fact also. So thank you very much for the elaborated answer.
Saquib, I was counting you in Gen Alpha, not in Gen X.
Adil, coming to you and continuing with the FMCG industry over there, what are the trends and technologies that are going to disrupt the FMCG industry in future? Directly to that specific points which can impact the people.
Thank you, Saquib. First, I want to thank Asfar and his team for putting together another outstanding event and giving us the opportunity to share our thoughts. When you talk about disruption, you have to talk about technology. And, I am from that school of thought that really thinks that data will become the great equalizer in this new world. This is already evident. One of the recent surveys to come out from Sarmaya Kar clearly shows that the financial inclusion in Pakistan has started to progress. It's not happening at the speed that we would like to happen, but it's happening. We are now at 30%, so financial inclusion defined as anybody in the formal economy with any form of digital, either digital banking or mobile phone wallet, etc., etc. So we are now at 30% as a country. Unfortunate part of the 30% is that the men are at about 45%, women are at only 15%. But that's a topic of a different platform, I guess. But data is starting to make a difference in the decision making, not only happening in FMCG, but in every industry. And I think going forward, we need to relook the way we look at data and start looking at it as more of a raw material, like we look at raw materials at our factories. And I think once we do that, I think this is where the competitive advantage of any individual or a competitive advantage of any company would start to be. I think the second thing from a disruption standpoint in the industry is what is generally called as the ESG, but I would like to call it that citizenship, and there are two aspects to it. One is the sustainability part, where the consumer is now demanding more responsible, more responsibly created products from more responsible means. And the second one is the diversity and inclusion, or the equality and inclusion part, where for my company or for my sector, most of our shoppers are women. Are those shoppers, are those people who are buying our product, are they represented in the industry as a workforce or not? So to give you our example of P&G Pakistan, 5 years ago, our workforce had 30% women, 70% men. Today, we are represented equally at 50-50. The leadership team is about 55-60% female leaders. So I think if you represent your consumer in your workplace, I think that behavior will start to change, and that behavior will start to eventually answer some of the questions that the new technologies are asking the new consumers to ask. So I think broadly speaking, two trends. One, data needs to be looked at more of a raw material to take any and every decision that we take, and the equality and inclusion part and the sustainability. I think these trends are the ones that are disrupting the FMCG industry right now.
Thank you very much. Data is the new oil. Data is the new key. Data is something that we all will be depending on. All the AI that we are talking about, all the generative and predictive analysis that we are talking about is based on the data, and we have a lot of data. Absolutely right. And sustainability and inclusion and diversity is the direction to go in this disruptive world. Moving on, Ayesha, to you. And generally talking about what are the key challenges in the agriculture sector and how the disruptive technology can help in solving these challenges for us.
Thank you, Saquib, and thank you everyone for being here. It's just great to see such a turnout, especially right now. So, talking about challenges in the agriculture sector, about 6 years ago, when we started really looking at agriculture in a deep way to understand how and where do we put our interventions and our investments, we had this wonderful associate, this young person who came in from the US and wanted to spend the summer doing something. And I said, why don't you do an assessment of the issues facing Pakistan's agriculture sector? And I thought he'll take a couple of weeks and be done with it. 3 months later, he put down like a 5-volume document at my desk, and he said, here are the problems with Pakistan's agriculture sector. So I will not go into those problems because we all know there are many, and they range from all sorts of things that are related to the public sector, whether we have subsidies, don't have subsidies, lack of investments, farms are shrinking, farmers are getting older, we don't have seed, we don't have certified, pesticide or anything really in terms of input. But let's step back and look at what does that mean for the context. So just 5 or 6 days ago, our finance ministry told us that, by the way, we're growing at 0.3%, slightly lower. Others pushed at that estimate and said, no, actually, it's even lower than that. So let's say we're flat. Now let's also look at our population that's hovering around 2%. So when you look at a growing population and an economy that's flat at best, at the very basic level, the demand for food keeps increasing. And given the problems in the agriculture sector, where we're seeing a situation where per acre, our productivity is 30 to 50% lower, and we're not talking about best in class, we're looking at even regional comparables, we're lower in productivity. And then whatever we produce, 20 to 40% we waste also because we don't have the cold storage, we don't have the logistics. So you're looking at this massive shortfall in our demand for food and our ability to produce food. And we're plugging it in different ways. So we've started becoming a net food importer in Pakistan. So if you think about it, an average meal for a Pakistani, let's take dal and roti and a cup of tea. Can you think through how much of that is imported? What component? Any guesses from the audience? So he's saying 70? So about 90% of that meal is imported. Okay, this is an average meal for Pakistan, dal, roti, chai. Pakistan is the largest importer of tea in the world. Let's pause on that and say, this is where we're at. And so as we're looking for various programs to get us out of our current account problems, $9 billion or so of food imports are keeping us afloat again. So the situation is one in which, when Saquib, you're talking about disruptive way forwards, we need to disrupt. Otherwise, it's an existential threat for us. This is a situation where already 90 million Pakistanis are food insecure, more are getting food insecure. About 40% of our children in some provinces are stunted because of malnutrition. So this is a country that is an agrarian country where 50% of our labor force is involved in agriculture and we're not able to produce food. That is, by the way, so this is the large context. This is where the opportunities also lie. Because again, we have massive local demand. We have massive need to consume. And so as we look at trends, and in my place, as I think of putting capital into spaces that are going to grow, that are going to not only solve for a problem of food security, but are actually going to be large success examples, we have to keep a couple of things in mind. I think the first one is, how do we actually increase the efficiency of what we're producing? And how do we do this while making sure our farmers are at the center of it? Your farmer is not farming because they want to solve for food security or they're actually solving for a national problem. They're farming because they actually want to make money farming. So how do we make interventions and innovations along the value chain so that farmers are able to earn living wages and are able to thrive? What are technologies that enable us to do so? And over the past 3 to 5 years, we have seen a growing sort of cluster of really interesting solutions emerge. And these are the disruptions I'm talking about. And these are disruptions that are enabling farmers to have access to inputs and credit, and also connecting them with off-takers as well, because without those high-value marketplaces, you're not going to be able to produce anything that connects putting that value back to the farmers. And then I think the other problem we can also solve with this is, as we're looking at more and more import dependency, we need to start focusing on how do we build export potential in Pakistan, and we can. So we're seeing, again, more and more solutions emerge. And we're talking about the situation in Pakistan right now that is reimagining and rethinking. It's also in many ways an opportunity, because now for the first time, we are seeing a real attempt at localizing supply chains. And nowhere are you seeing that more than in your food systems. So whereas we used to be able to import whatever quantity of tomato paste we wanted to from China, now we need to develop those things locally. So there is a massive opportunity in disrupting the sort of easy, and I would say it's a lazy solution to just start importing things, but how do we disrupt those existing patterns and then say, look, we're going to provide local solutions that are serving the local market and are catering to a growing population that, frankly, we all need to do better for. And so those are the important areas. And as I said, it's a disruption that's not a choice. It is a necessity, and we absolutely need to get behind it. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ayesha. And as she just said, and very rightfully said, that it's not a choice. It's necessary for our survival, and especially in the agriculture and food industry that we are talking about, the number of resources that we have and how we need to manage, that is an eye-opener for us today, and we need disruption in that industry to make our means. Going to you, Moonis, and Moonis, I know him personally, I know him professionally. I think one of the leaders that have managed the disruption in the best possible way in his organization. I think we all know the great work that K Electric is doing overall, and I know him as the vendor as well, because the kind of disruptions that they are hitting them and the way they are handling them is something marvelous out there. So Moonis, thank you very much for that as a user and as somebody that works along with you. Moonis, we have been talking about a lot of disruption, a lot of future, but every time when we go in, we need to have a future-proof organization. And when I say future-proof, I want to say that we want to build an organization which is ready for all the disruption and nothing can disrupt them achieving their goals. How can we make that future-proof organization?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you, Saquib. And again, congratulations to Asif for organizing such a fantastic avenue where all senior leaders are talking about this rethinking and disruption. Before talking about what we are doing to Ayesha, when you make that list of issues in agriculture, please put a line that these farmers, they don't pay for the tube well electricity they consume in Balochistan and Sindh, and we face huge problem in getting monies recovered from those farmers. So, whatever their situation is, but they don't pay for the electricity. So we have a problem there also. And the other thing that she talked about, and because of my experience, whenever I go to Dubai, my mother always tell me, अरहर की दाल लेकर आना. वो पाकिस्तान में नहीं मिलती. I don't know why. So, I have to get it from Dubai, क्योंकि वो शायद it's a better quality. So I think, and the other which statements made, it is not a choice. I think it is a necessity, absolutely. And again, coming from the power sector background, I think we are doing similar things again and again, and we are expecting different results. I think it will not happen. I will definitely talk about K Electric, but let me tell you, we are a small island in a sea in Pakistan. We are obviously one utility in Pakistan has, apart from us, another 9 distribution companies, government owned and power sector, private sector owned power generation, transmission, so on and so forth. So if there is any sector, God forbid, that can bring Pakistan down, Khuda na khasta, is energy, which is petroleum and power. And looking at it and working in K Electric for a very long time now and understanding these issues to some extent, I would say that if we don't rethink our strategies, not only for K Electric but for the entire country, I think the numbers are going to be mind-boggling in terms of the circular debt, in terms of the ability of these distribution companies to make profits, and changing the entire landscape of power sector. By the way, I think it's a public knowledge now that K Electric has reported a loss of almost 40 billion for the 9 months. We are not proud about it, but I think the most important element of this loss is that while we have incurred this loss, but this loss is not contributing to the circular debt. It is being funded by our shareholders through reduction in their retained earnings, and we have to create funding to finance that loss. Whereas if the similar loss is incurred in any distribution company, inadvertently that amount ultimately is parked in a circular debt. So I think my strong recommendation, suggestion and disruption in power sector is to privatize on a national level. If you do that and you bring investor, you give them a tariff which is workable, give them targets, they achieve those targets, they make money. If they don't, they have to fund their losses, and those targets have to be market based. Those targets have to be something which they can achieve. So I think this is something which at the national level, I think everyone, government, regulator, they have to think about it, because I think we have seen these tariff increases because of which you can reduce circular debt, but it's a spiral effect. You increase the tariff, the recovery and T&D goes down, and you again add to the circular debt. And the tariff increase not always, give that ability of the people to pay. So you are disrupting the economics of businesses, ability to pay of people, and you are not solving the problem. So on a national level, I think we need to rethink how we can put this monkey on some investors' back rather than government of Pakistan being responsible for collecting, distributing power for the entire country. So talking about K Electric, I think, we would again claim that I think we have demonstrated K Electric as an island of stability. We obviously are part of Pakistan. We cannot operate, without the challenges that is being faced by the country. We also are facing all the problems in terms of these tariff increases. We are facing these issues in terms of imports. And again, it's not always easy to supply and collect power in a city which has 40% undocumented population. At the same time, I think what we have actually decided and we have embarked on that journey is to have a non-exclusive distribution license, which again seems to be very, I would say, aggressive. But I think because the biggest criticism on K Electric is that we are a monopoly and we somehow do things which we should not do. So in fact, obviously it was requirement also, but we also decided that we will not challenge exclusivity, and we have gone for a non-exclusive license, and we would be very appreciative of the competition that is going to be in Karachi and obviously in other parts of Pakistan. We are looking at from perspective that fine, people can come and sell power in Karachi, but at the same time we can go and sell power in other parts of Pakistan. And that competition, we are not used to of having competition. There will be challenges, but hopefully inshallah ta'ala, if this competition is created, probably everyone will learn from it, and ultimately, one of the previous participant talked about customer centricity. It is again a very important value at KE also. So if this competition can be created, I think customer is going to benefit, and we are looking towards it with a very positive eye, inshallah. We will be very forthcoming in terms of anyone distributing power. Obviously, we wait for the rules to come. Other than that, this power supply to Karachi, the biggest responsibility, and again, how we can help not only Pakistan and our customers in Karachi is to have a lower tariff. So we are targeting at least 30% of our generation to be from renewables, and by 2030 we will inshallah have around 1100 megawatts of solar and wind, and it will definitely bring the tariff down. At the same time, we are trying our best to bring the incremental power from indigenous resources, and we don't like the word coal, but I'm sorry, I like it because it is the only indigenous resource which can give us cheap power and which will have very limited impact, in fact no impact on the foreign exchange reserve. We need to understand that this is absolutely critical for Pakistan because we can rely on imported fuel, but we should have the foreign currency component available to pay for those costs also, the RLNG or any other fuel which is imported. So renewables along with hydel is the name of the game in the next few years, and it will inshallah bring that disruption which is needed. At the same time, the challenges that we are seeing right now with the opening of these import LCs, we are doing a lot of effort to bring localization of the things that are imported. We are working with all major industrial businesses in Pakistan. We had a conference also again organized by Asif where we invited all major investors to look at what KE is going to buy in the next 7 years. We have filed an investment plan of almost 484 billion rupees, which actually if we convert it at today's rate, it goes to almost close to 600 billion PKRs. It will have very, I would say, defined items that will be put on distribution and transmission network. So the investors can actually see that this is going to be used by not only K Electric, but if KE as a distribution company is using these equipments, there is every likelihood that other distribution companies will also buy it. So there can be huge demand, and this crisis hopefully will be able to, give this opportunity to people to produce these things locally, which will obviously, it will improve the GDP, it will create employment, and obviously the reliance on foreign currency is going to be limited. So, we are the sole power supplier to Karachi, and we expect CTBCM obviously to happen. But there will, even if CTBCM is implemented today, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of customers who will continue to be supplied by K Electric. And we feel this responsibility that the unregulated customers, the customers who will not be in the CTBCM, should still have a better service. And as a private utility, we feel that this is important for us to ensure that we continue to have this similar service. And obviously, we have filed a tariff with the regulator. We need the tariff to be sustainable so that whatever investments we have to make, they can be financed from all the major lenders in Pakistan. And hopefully, inshallah, we understand that we need to change. And I think as a Karachiite looking at what we can do, we are rethinking every day to ensure that we maintain KE's position in a very dynamic environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Moonis. I have got the time sheet, panelists, so this means 3 minutes each for the next question. I will be coming direct, Asif, to you. Asif, one disruption that you want to have in the IT industry today?
I think in our IT industry, I would say that if the disruption is going to happen, it's we all need to adopt cloud, AI, data. These are the things that we need to adopt. And I would like, since nobody talked about, Saquib, about the financial industry, which is very big in Pakistan. In the financial sector, financial services, as you know, when we're talking about disruption, fintech has disrupted the space, right? And now, if I give you an example, like Apple Pay have $1 billion of depositors on this phone. What they have done now, they have just used the Goldman Sachs banking license, and we call banking as a service. So in our industry, if you just, in any industry you think about it, is like banking as a service has disrupted the entire banking industry, and the new bank, challenger bank, digital banks are coming. And this like anything that now Apple offers, they don't have to have a banking license, they don't have to have a core banking software. They've just used banking as a service. That's what now new trend is. Similarly, you might have heard about the embedded finance. Now, buy now, pay later type of use cases. Insurance companies are using embedded finance and connecting with the financial institutions. So it has revolutionized the entire financial industry. If you talk about these two trends even, it is amazing. So Saquib, to your point, like if I want to see that, people really need to think about, start from customer and disrupt their industry, whichever they are, and look at hyper automation and hyper personalization. What do I mean by hyper automation? Now you can keep talking about it, that AI will replace us and RP, robotic process automation, will replace us. So as Adil was saying, disruption starts with the technology, right? So how you can think about in your field, in IT, we think about all the time, whatever the repetitive task, can we automate that? Can we hyper-automate that through robotics or intelligent process automation or business process re-engineering, whatever you do. So in whichever field you are, you need to make sure that you are thinking about hyper-automation, because that can disrupt your own work, and hyper-personalization. Because now, my colleague Sami talked about like consumers, right? So now every consumer is different. Every customer engagement is different. Every customer wants a different thing. So if you can't personalize based on the data that you have, and that's why I call hyper-personalization, then you can't retain that customer in whatever field you are, whether you are a fund manager, whether you are a B2B, B2C, you are in a technology, e-commerce. So these are the things that I would like to see. And I think in our industry, everything is disruptive. Actually, in IT industry, every day is a new day. And if you can't catch up, if you are not thinking, at least you need to catch up, right? And you need to put technology in your forefront, whether you are a public sector or private sector, doesn't matter. Just put technology at your forefront. Disruption is nothing but, it reaches a strategic inflection point, and if you can't change yourself, then somebody else will take over and you will be legacy. So there are so many examples, I can keep going, but I think 3 minutes, I guess. Right.
Thank you very much. I think change is the key. AI is here to stay. Humans will not be replaced, but they will start using the AI in the best possible way. And we need to get ready with this set of information and how to utilize it. The problem is that historically, we were the data banks. We used to carry a lot of information. Now we don't used to carry the information. We need to know how to use this information. And that's the difference that we need to learn. Sami, coming to you quickly over there. On one side, we want growth and innovation. On the other side, we want sustainability and eco-friendly environment. How to make that balance?
Thank you, Saquib, for keeping this question for me. This is one topic which is very close to my heart. I'll start my answer to your question with a single line, and then I'll get into the details. Sustainability is a responsibility and an opportunity as well. Why it is a responsibility? And it is a bigger responsibility for our country. For those of you who don't know, Pakistan houses over 7,000 glaciers, and this cumulate the most ice in the world outside the countries which fall under polar regions. So Pakistan has got 7,000 glaciers, the most ice in the world outside polar regional countries. In the last 140 years, the temperature of our planet has gone up by 2 centigrades, and because carbon dioxide emission has accelerated, because we went through a industrialization era, by the end of this century, the expectation is the temperatures would further go up by 4 to 5 degrees centigrade. What would that mean? This would mean that the sea level is going to go up by 5 to 7 feet, and if it does that, there are many cities in this world, including one of ours, which will be drowned under the water. This is how big sustainability is. The problem with sustainability is that the level of awareness, unfortunately, is not very high. But as you start trying to learn the facts about sustainability, you realize that the more you know about it, you feel that the lesser you knew about it. The more you read about it, you realize that lesser you knew about it. So sustainability is something that we have to take very, very seriously. So sustainability generally is classified under 2 facets. One is the sustainability of a planet, and then there's a sustainability responsibility of our societies as well, human rights, our child abuse, etc. So this has to be seen from both the angles. Now this being said, and another very interesting fact that I would share with all of you, that every year, we're dumping a lot of plastic in our oceans and our seas that is completely destroying the marine life. One of the very, I would not say funny, but a very disappointing fact is you would be seeing a lot that companies making a claim, including us, I'll count ourselves in, that 90% of our packaging is recycled, 100% of our packaging is recycled. Today, around the globe, only 2% of plastic, recycled plastic, is being collected. So there are only few countries in the world who have done really well, for some of the countries in Europe. Otherwise, we make those claims that recycled packaging, but there's no collection system. That means that this plastic is going into the ocean. We're destroying the marine life, and the temperatures would further go up. Anyway, so that is the responsibility part. If we have to give a better planet to our generations to come, we have to act now. Now, I spoke about opportunity, and I know senior leaders and CEOs are sitting here, and it becomes really difficult when we don't present an opportunity in terms of business size to our boards to get these sustainability projects approved, right? That's the reality as well. Few interesting facts. So who are the key stakeholders in this sustainability value chain? They are consumers. Now the researchers are showing, as people around the world, they're getting more aware about the sustainability issues and the health of this planet. In developed economies, 50% of the consumers want themselves to be associated with the brands who are doing something good for this planet or for the communities. 70% of the employees in the companies, they feel good about, the retention level goes up when they see their companies are talking about society, the issues that matters to the society, the things that the companies are doing for the planet. Governments in some of the countries, and this will, we see that the trends that emerges in developed economies, sooner or later they come to our countries as well. Governments are taking initiatives in the few countries where the usage of sugar after a certain level has been completely banned, so you cannot do it. Warning has been given to the companies that you have to move to 100% renewable energy to reduce the carbon dioxide emission by so and so period, otherwise you would not be allowed. So even from a continuation of the business perspective, sustainability is very important. What is the opportunity? The opportunity is, so if consumer feels good about sustainability, if you do a sustainability initiative, and I'll just quickly share in 30 seconds one of the initiative that we did in one of a market in Australia. We have this brand by the name of TNCC. It's organic jellies. We completely moved to 100% renewable energy on our jellies plant. The benefit of 90,000 carbon dioxide reduction in emission that we got out of it, it was communicated on the packaging. It was put on the POS material, executed. We slightly took the price up by as well 10%. And not only our consumer loyalty increased, but our sales also went up. In Pakistan as well, because I said that this is one topic which is very close to my heart as well. In Pakistan as well, so we have done now 135 kilowatt of small solar plant. We have 2 plants which are being operated in hub. And now we are setting up a solar plant of 1.35 megawatt, which will completely take our plant energy consumption to renewable energy by the end of 2024 or by the mid of 2025. All the chocolate that we source now around the globe, it is Coca Life. Coca Life means that we care for the farmers.
So Sami, I have to interrupt you now because you have taken the time. You're two colleagues as well. So thank you very much. But Sami, I've got 3 messages in between. Adil, over to you. And sorry for the short time. What a disruptive thing that you want in the FMCG industry now? No.
So one disruption that we all must encourage, not only in our industry, but in Pakistan's economy overall, is our ability to localize as much as possible, and localize in a way that it creates the ability to export. And we've been at this journey over the last 5 to 8 years, and we have gotten to a place where over 90% of our products, you take, if you're using, I hope all of you, if not most of you, are using Head & Shoulders and Pantene, Pampers, Always, Gillette, Blue 3. These are all now made in Pakistan. Over 92%, as I said, of our sales are made in Pakistan. 100% of our pack materials are now made in Pakistan. It's a significant part of our raw materials are now made in Pakistan. And as we were on this journey, we realized that there is tremendous potential, there is tremendous skill available in Pakistan that can turn this around. And I think going forward, the structure of Pakistan's economy will only change if we create the capacity and the capability to change and localize in a way that generates exports for us.
Thank you very much, Adil, and to be honest, very concise and clear. Ayesha, how would the small-scale investments in Pakistan can take benefit of these disruptions that we are talking about? What are their challenges and how they can make benefit of this one?
Thank you for this. So investments, whether they're small or large, I think at the end of the day, the fundamentals in Pakistan, you have 250 million people. And as we're going through this reimagining by force somewhat, I think we're going to see more and more an emergence of really exciting clusters of entrepreneurs that have survived. We've gone through multiple shocks. The world has gone through many shocks, but Pakistan has gone through perhaps a few more than the world has. Those who survive, and I'll give you a slightly less optimistic example. We had a pipeline. We were setting up a fund, and before you set up a fund, you set up a pipeline of companies. We had about 300 really interesting agri-tech companies last year, all of which were really ready for early stage capital in the range of $1 to $3 million each. Now, as we went through first COVID shock, then supply chain shocks, then macro shocks, now political uncertainty with the PKR USD deval, we've seen a large majority, a significant chunk of these companies actually no longer remain viable, because the plans they started off with are no longer the plans that are relevant for this context. Now, the exciting part about that is the ones that are able to pivot and the ones that are able to recognize the new context and reshape their processes are the ones that you can invest in. Because, look, this is the reality of a frontier market like Pakistan. A certain amount of volatility will remain. If you're looking for risk-free returns, then maybe you should be, as investors, looking outside emerging markets, outside frontier markets. You invest in countries like Pakistan for the potential of growth, but of course, then have the ability to withstand the risks and the volatility. So I think the disruptions and the exciting opportunities are coming in every space. My space, of course, is one of climate sustainable agriculture, because at its core, I think no nation can really grow unless we're able to ensure affordable, nutritious food for everyone. And unless we're able to solve for that as locally as possible, we won't be able to address any of our development goals. But I think there are lots and lots of opportunities. Some of those amazing entrepreneurs are here in this room as well, and there are many more that I hope will see the space and come in. The future is an exciting one, and it will be written by those who can see the world as it can be, not those who are looking and getting despondent by facts on the ground right now.
Thank you, Ayesha. Your last comments were future is exciting, which leads to my next question to Moonis. Do you want the technology to run in the same pace, or do you feel it is impacting our social fabric a lot and it should need to slow down? How do you see it?
Saquib, I think the social fabric has to improve with the technology. And it is impossible that if technology is available, you can't use it. And, people often talk about it that if technology is there, probably there's going to be some unemployment or, you'll reduce, the manpower. But I think technology, we talk about, if we talk about 15, 20 years ago, the use of computer was very limited. Now, I think if people don't know computer, they are unemployed probably, most likely. So has it created unemployment? No, the skill set improves. And at KE again, I'll talk about KE, we are looking at many areas where technology is actually improving the overall performance, efficiency, and at the same time, the people who were doing whatever they were doing, and now it is being, for example, I talk about meter reading. So all the industrial units are now read electronically. No specific visit is needed. The meters talk to us and we can get data after every 15 minutes. It does not mean that all the meter readers are now, they have a social impact and they are not there. So they are trained in a different environment for different things and they are used. So the future, and if you need to have the quality of service to the customers, which ultimately in a competitive environment would be using the best available, least cost supply, you cannot avoid technology. So everyone has to understand where they can use technology, and we have talked about AI. I think we are doing a lot of machine learning in terms of the recovery. We have a lot of data where people are not paying, and the algorithms tell us, who you can go and actually target. So the human element definitely is reducing, and the technology is taking it over, but it is increasing our ability to do things much more efficiently. So the future is technology. How can you live without technology?
Thank you very much, panelists. If I have to summarize the panel, I will say technology is here to stay. We need to learn how to adopt with it. We need to learn how to change with it. We need to understand and talk about how this technology is part and parcel of our coming life. We as a responsible citizens and human needs to make sure that we define the ethical boundaries which are required to be governed to make this technology part to our day-to-day life. IT is the base layer across all industries, and this IT is becoming and make disruptions going along across all industries. And these disruptions are good because they are getting more efficiencies in our system, they are giving more opportunities to the people, and most importantly, we need to understand that there is a hell of a lot of data that is available, and we need to know how to navigate through this data. We are not required to have now sets of data in our minds. It's all about how we can get the best set of information that can lead to us. And I can give you one example. You have attended the 2 sessions together. Some of you may be thinking that where these all questions are coming in my mind. It was 30 minutes job on ChatGPT that I got these 8 questions. Honest answer. It's just about how you navigate the set of informations to get these questions and ask to the right people out there. That's how technology can enable us to get the best results. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, panelists.